all have family members who are dream killers, friends that are dream killers. We all know someone that is always going to be negative. If you have some dream or goal or aspiration and you share it with them, they're going to find a way to tell you you shouldn't do it. And sometimes it has to do more with their insecurities or their previous failures that they're trying to help you avoid.
Created live on Fireside.
Welcome to Athletic Definition. I'm your host, Coach Ray Z. Today's going to be a really good show, so let's get right into it. The name of this show is called Dream. I know we all have family members who are dream killers, friends that are dream killers. We all know someone that is always going to be negative. If you have some dream or goal or aspiration and you share it with them, they're going to find a way to tell you you shouldn't do it. And sometimes it has to do more with their insecurities or their previous failures that they're trying to help you avoid. And it kind of just depends on how you look at it. So the reason I started kind of getting into this subject is because I was listening to an old podcast I did with Steve Maxwell. And we were talking about how society, all they want to do is TikTok trends, and they see people who have been on a fitness journey for a long time on Instagram or TikTok and have the athletic ability or have worked on some sort of feat for a long time. And people want to compare their first week or first 3 months or first year of training to someone who's been doing it for a long, long time. When you start comparing yourself to others, that's not a good thing. That is basically the beginning of self-hate. You should not compare yourself to others. But at the same time, part of that conversation I had, and it's episode 85. If you want to check it out, it's a really good podcast. In case you don't know who Steve Maxwell is, Steve Maxwell is the first kettlebell teacher in the United States and one of the first black belts in the United States. And he was talking about how you can't build your program to work out to get in shape based on genetic phenoms. That what happens is when you try to compare yourself to somebody else, you usually overtrain, you get injured, and you end up quitting. So you don't want to compare yourself in that way. But then I kind of started thinking about it when I'm in my teens or when I'm in my 20s or 30s. I would be like, you're kind of being a dream killer. Like, I want to go for it. Why can't I? Now, a lot of us might have unrealistic expectations, but I definitely don't want to be a dream killer. But you also have to know exactly how difficult it will be, so it'll be more realistic. You have to know the odds. You have to know what you're going against. That way you have a better chance of making it. I follow a bunch of inspiration and motivation, and on the same, I even shared it on my Instagram story. So if you want to follow me on Coach Ray Z on my social media, you can see when I post. But I follow something called Goalcast, and they always have different little speeches from different people from all walks of life, from athletes to actors. And they had Michael B. Jordan on there, who's going to be playing Creed 3, and who plays does he go by Apollo? I forgot. One of my Rockies is my favorite movie, but he's talking about how you almost have to, and on the little Gold Cast, which you could go check out their Instagram, it says you almost have to be a little insane to have such blind faith in something you can't see. But then at the same time, he's like, how are you going to tell someone, don't go for your dreams? And then you do hear some people dreams or goals, and you think to yourself, man, you need to forget that. But so many people are so close to achieving their goal or their dream right when they quit. It reminds me of that meme where a guy's digging in a cave, and you can see the diamonds on the other end of the cave, and another guy's digging. One guy quits right before he just needed one more dagger with a pickaxe to hit the diamonds, and the other guy's still digging away. So that makes it really difficult. Then you have Arnold Schwarzenegger, who says he never had a plan B, that having a plan B is a safety net. That's where it all depends on how realistic your goal is. And I'm not saying to have big dreams, and I'm not saying to try and set new records or to achieve new things, but you have to be realistic and know that it's not going to be easy. And I'm not trying to be a dream killer by saying this, but the odds are against you. If you have ever read David Goggins' You Can't Hurt Me book, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it. His first chapter is called I Should Have Been a Statistic. And I always think about that myself personally, even before I read this book. I always thought, I'm so blessed to be alive every day that I wake up. It's a blessing because being first generation, being Mexican American, I should have been a statistic. I should have been in jail. I should have been in prison. I should have been dead. I should have been in gangs. I should have been in drugs. I should have, dropped out of high school, dropped out of college. Health issues, type 1, type 2 diabetes is really high amongst Mexican Americans. And then I think back to Rocky when he's getting ready for Clubber Lang and he's watching the Clubber Lang interview. Right there, you have Clubber Lang saying, "This time it's not going to be quick. I'm not going to knock you out easily. I'm going to torture you." And Paulie, he tells him, "Don't listen to him, Rocky." And then Apollo is right next to him. He's like, "Do listen to him, Rocky, because at the end, they're going to owe you an engraved apology." Some people I know perform better when someone tells you, no, you can't do it. It's almost like it pumps you up to get ready to push even harder. So you have to try and know yourself and know what motivates you. And then on David Goggins' book, he's talking about how he went, and this is the first chapter basically. He's talking about how he got invited to MIT, and they're speaking on mental toughness. And the guy who is speaking is an esteemed professor. And he's talking about how we all have genetic limitations. And then once we hit that hard ceiling, that's it, no matter what. Even with mental toughness, you can't surpass that. And David, in his mind, was thinking that's a bunch of bullshit. But everybody agreed with the professor because, he that's his life work. That's his life work. But David Goggins, I guess someone could tell his reaction. So he said, if you're going to ask me a direct question, I'm going to tell you. So he said, that's a bunch of bullshit. That there's that 1%. And listen to what he's saying, that 1%. That means that it's a very small percentage of people that are going to accomplish it and keep going and keep doing it. I'm not saying it's not possible. And I want you to succeed. I want you to shine. I want you to make it. But I also want you to be aware that the people that have come from nothing, have come from the bottom, are telling you it's not going to be easy. The fitness world, it says it never gets easier. You just get better at it. It's still difficult. It's still, if you're not a morning person, it's still not easy to wake up early and go out. And if you're just someone who isn't motivated to work out, it's still not easy. Or if you just hate a certain something, it never makes it easy. You just either get better at it or you get more disciplined to continue doing it. So then I started thinking about how difficult and how he's saying only 1% of it, of people actually can push through that mental barrier, which is very true. So I kind of wanted to break down, because I'm all into fitness and sports, a little bit of the percentages of what it would take for you to go against the odds. And look at me. I was never good enough to be recruited by college, by pro teams, but my passion is fitness and sports. And I'm going to keep pursuing it, keep pursuing it. And even though there's no map for me to follow of someone who has done what I want to do, I'm still pushing fitness. I'm still pushing sports and trying to inspire and motivate people through that way. But at the same time, the more you know, the more prepared you can be if you are that minority growing up in some place where everything's against you. And even then, the odds are still against you. So I'm going to break down a little bit of some of the odds. I also was watching Steve Harvey, and he has a lot of good inspirational things. And he talks about on one of them, if you want to kill a big dream, tell a small-minded person. You got some great ideas, and you've gone to family members or friends, and what do? They shoot it down, and they tell you it's not good. And I'll give it some more relatable examples to fitness. Maybe you told somebody, I want to lose weight. I want to get in shape. I want to be ripped. I want to be buff. And they all told you it's not possible. I know when one of my goals as a kid was to run a marathon after seeing LA Marathon on TV. One of my goals was to run a marathon, and my own family members bet against me. Not all of them, but some of them did. Coworkers were placing bets to see if I would finish or not. And that's where I actually took that as motivation when I wanted to stop during the marathon to push myself to keep going. But some people, just depending on your mental toughness, you might take that and just give up before you even start. So just be aware that not everybody's story is a fairy tale. And even then, it's tough. The percentage of the population to run a marathon, according to Run Repeat, is approximately 0.05. And that is around the world, not just United States. Oh, and it says, actually, that's the percentage of people who have completed in United States. Throughout the world, about 1.1 million runners have finished a marathon each year. That equates to approximately 0.01 of the global population will ever complete a marathon. Now I've completed 57, going from I wasn't sure if I could do it to completing 57 marathons, and the goal is 100. That's one of my many goals. From going from someone who wasn't sure and people were betting against me to going and completing back-to-back marathons twice and running 3 marathons in 3 days. Now there's no one betting against me. Now it's just expected of me. It's gotten to the point where I don't even get likes from people I know on Facebook or Instagram, because that's just like an everyday thing. It's before, when you first do it or first accomplish it, everybody's like, wow, congratulations. I didn't think you could do it. And then after a while, if you keep with that fitness lifestyle and trying to push new mental and physical barriers, people are just going to expect it. And you may feel discouraged if all you're doing it is just for the cheers and the likes. But if you're doing it for yourself, you're going to find that motivation and discipline to keep going, because you shouldn't be doing it just to get a like on Instagram or anything like that. The average in the United States, basically meets the necessary physical activity is only about 22.9%, 23%. So most Americans are not in shape. I don't think that that's nothing new. The odds of earning a black belt in a martial art, and this seems to be more like karate, globally is 3 to 5%. And that is basically about 2% of the population that actually start, and it takes them about an average of 6 years. According to Renner Gracie, for jiu-jitsu, only 10% of new practitioners will even earn their blue belt. I made it to that 10%, and it took me way more years than the average person, but I wouldn't give up. In fact, I got stitches along the way. To me, that was an even bigger investment that I made into jiu-jitsu, because now that medical bill that I had to pay out of my own pocket is an investment, in my opinion, to jiu-jitsu. So I didn't want to quit. And now they say usually once you make your blue belt, you quit. With a pandemic and then my Cadillac converter being robbed and insurances don't cover that in California, I'm carless. So my jiu-jitsu journey has been put on pause. I go when I can, but it's getting more and more difficult. But I refuse to be that percentage that falls. I will never quit until the day I die. Out of the 10%, a mere 1% will continue to black belt. So out of the the people that start jiu-jitsu, only 10% of them make it to blue belt. And then from there, only 1% make it to black belt. That's 1 in 1,000 white belts will go on to be a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The odds are against you. If you break that down, that's pretty much what David Goggins is saying, 1%. In the NFL draft, which represents basically about from college, the college players that get drafted from college to the draft are 224. And that's basically fewer than 2% of the student athletes that actually were in the draft. There's 32 teams in the NFL with 53 players each. So that's a total of 1,696 total players in the NFL. And some of these players, most of the lifespan in the NFL is very short. Some of them have the longevity that we hear, and we just kind of think everybody's like that. And then those guys that are still going and still going are keeping other people from being part of this very, very small percentage that get to play football. Fewer than 2% of the NCAA student athletes go on to be professional athletes. In reality, most students depend on academics to prepare them for their life after college. Education is important. There are more than 460,000 NCAA student athletes, and most of them will go pro in something other than sports. How many people make it to the NBA each year? So from the draft, 60 people, 60 players from the draft actually make it in the NBA. In the NBA, there's roughly about 450 players. And once again, genetic, being a genetic phenom, being blessed with the height, and then the ability to keep working, because there's a lot of tall people that don't make it in the NBA. So it's more than that. If you are interested in baseball, baseball has 25 players on a team. There's 30 teams. So that's a total of 750 players in the Major League Baseball, which once again, the odds of you becoming pro, they're against you. So if you think you can slack off and not put in the work and still make it there, maybe you'll make it, but you're not going to last long. There's also approximately 20,000 active professional boxers, over 1,000 professional MMA athletes, according to figures from Box Tech, UFC, Bellator, and the World Series of Fighting, and that's from 2017. So as I mentioned, Steve Harvey was talking about stop being a dream killer, encourage someone instead of putting them down. You never know what they will turn out to be. Encourage your family and your friends to go for their dreams. You may have a future doctor, lawyer, inventor, founder of a company, etc. standing next to you. You wouldn't even want to know, wouldn't you want to know that later on in life that you helped them to encourage that person instead of stomping out their dreams, which I totally agree with. And it reminds me of a quote that I've heard, a couple actually. One, I'm going to refer back to Rocky. There is no tomorrow. So stop letting excuses or even how difficult it'll be preventing you from doing it. Or maybe you tried losing weight. Maybe you tried going to the gym. Maybe you tried to sign up for a half marathon and never finished it. Remember, dreams don't have an expiration date. You can always pursue your goal. And a lot of times, I'm going to another quote from Bruce Lee. Not all goals are meant to be achieved. They're just something to strive for. If your goal is to lose weight and your goal is, let's say, to drop 20 pounds and you drop 10 and you didn't make your goal by your date, well, guess what? You still got better. You still bettered yourself. You still bettered your body. You got 10 pounds out of the way. You got 10 more. You shouldn't just stop and feel discouraged. You did a lot. You accomplished a lot. You can keep going, and then you build up momentum and discipline, and hopefully you're feeling better and looking better from the 10 pounds. So that's just something I wanted to kind of share with everybody here. I definitely consider the words that I say to people because I always want to motivate and inspire them. But at the same time, I don't want to see people get hurt. But I know that that's part of sports. Any sort of physical activity, competition, getting injured is part of it. I know I've been injured many times, and sometimes you may get injured with not even relating to your sport. You could be walking down the street, trip on a crack and break your leg or anything like that. You shouldn't give up no matter what. Right now, my marathons have been kind of pretty much put on pause. My goal to reach 100, it's there's other things going on. There's so much going on right now that I'm getting back to training. My training is getting better, but I don't have a specific date for anything right now. So right now, it's more difficult, at least for me, because when I have let's say a jiu-jitsu competition, or I know the Nike basketball 3-on-3 tournament's coming up, or I have a marathon, then I have something, a plan, a routine, a program that I can follow, and it helps me stay motivated and inspired. And when you don't, it does make it more difficult, but you just can't stop. Imagine if I just completely stop working out and all I do is say focus on content creating and making podcasts. One is I'm not going to feel good about myself. And two is in a little bit, I'm going to feel like I'm a phony because I'm preaching something and then not actually doing it. So I want to encourage you that if you've attempted something and you failed at it, keep going, try it again, get up. As the saying goes, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Keep going. If there's anything I can do to help you get back on track, if you want to complete a marathon, I can definitely help you with that. Feel free to contact me at coachrayz.com or athleticdefinition.com. You can also find me on all my social medias under Coach Ray Z. And I just wanted to thank everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time. Athletic Definition, Coach Ray Z, and I'm out.